Hi, I wanted to record this video that just it walks through my painting process. It's it's basically a speed paint, so we're gonna blow through this very quickly. I think this video is about 20 minutes long, and I'm just going to talk through my process. The bulk of this video is going to be about the actual painting process, but I'll spend a couple minutes talking about the conception of this piece. So this is a cover for Uncanny Magazine that was commissioned for their March-April 2023 issue. And it starts with a basic thumbnail. I usually present a few options for my clients, but I've worked with Uncanny Magazine for quite a while, and for this piece, I had one really strong image, so that is the thumbnail I gave them. When I'm presenting ideas to my clients, I try not to present anything I'm not excited about, so I only give them like pieces that I can envision working on for quite a while. So for this piece, I felt very strongly about this one concept. So this is the concept that I presented. Luckily, they liked it, and it was off to the races. I borrowed my nieces to help me get the poses right for these characters for the actual sketch, and then I just built on top of that illustration, and I'm just clicking through layers here to show a bit of my thought process. Like here, I think I got a close-up of my niece's hands to make sure I drew them properly, and I really just start layering in elements until I get that final sketch. I work with a lot of layers, and this is the sketch along with a flat grayscale pass, and this is the piece that I took into my final painting. This is a little rougher than I usually work. Usually I do a line drawing, not just a sketch, so there's going to be a lot of corrective painting once I get to the finesse stage. So my process these days, I usually start with a value study, which kind of functions like an underpainting, just it's all grayscale and no color. And I work on the value study first, and then I start laying in color. So here we see I'm taking, essentially I start with my sketch, and I start like a flat value study, just like flat solid color study, and then I really start painting after that. So previously, I was laying in just blocks of color, just, figuring out tonally what I wanted every block of color to be. And that's all in layers. Those layers are separated from the sketch. And so what we see now is I have collapsed all those layers. So that flat render and my sketch layer are all one layer at this point, and I am painting directly over it. Here I decided the middle character's cape needed to be visible past the character in the foreground, so I'm just drawing that in. And I was working really quickly with this painting. I was really behind deadline. And so, generally I'd probably slow down and really take my time to finesse a painting, but I was kind of in a hurry on this one. So the the flat pass is rougher than I would usually have it. Like I do a formal line drawing instead of just building from a sketch. So I'm doing a lot of corrective painting at this stage that I probably wouldn't have to do if I had an actual line drawing. And I'm just going in and adding all the detail that I didn't have before because I didn't do a line drawing. So at this stage, I don't really use textured brushes. I think I'm probably just using hard round on like a low opacity. And I'm fine with that. Like I do, like you can kind of see, to add a bit of texture, I will make individual marks instead of relying on a textured brush. And that works for me. There's nothing wrong with using textured brushes, but I feel like at this stage in particular, I feel like it's not really necessary for my process. Like you can paint with hard round, you can paint with these simple factory brushes, you can paint with custom brushes, and as long as you understand your technique, as long as you understand what you're going for, you're gonna get a good result regardless of the brush. That's the that's the meme, right? Like, what brush do you use? And on one hand, yeah, the brush matters. You have to pick the right tool for the project, for what you're going for. But on the other hand, that brush can be anything you want it to be. So for me, because I don't use a textured brush, I have to, manually draw a lot of texture into my pieces, but I don't mind that. I like having that level of control. And so I'm just continuing. I was talking to a student recently about how I handle the line art at this stage in my painting, because I like to keep a little bit of line in my final painting, and you can see a lot of times I just redraw it. I'll paint it out and just repaint it in and erase anything that's erase bits that are jagged or uneven, smooth them out. And yeah, I forgot to add the wheel to the other side of the wheelchair, which was an easy fix. And I have a bunch of photo reference on hand while I'm working on this, especially because I'm working so quickly. I didn't have time to really develop this line drawing and get all those details right, so I am heavily referencing as I go along. Space right. With this value study, I want to get the rendering as close to final as I can get before I start adding color. And it's not going to be complete. There's still going to be quite a bit of work to do once I start adding color, but I do want to get the rendering, the finessing as close to finish as I can get, which just simplifies things when I get to the color stage. The way I work, I'd say like 75% of the painting, even 80% of the painting is prior to adding color, and then once I add color in, I'm nearly done. As I'm moving around the painting, I'm always thinking about contrast. This value stage is really where you're clarifying shapes and making sure everything is distinct. Like, everything in this painting should make sense in grayscale before you add color. So I am moving around the painting and just looking at how values relate to one another, making sure that shapes and details are separate and distinct from one another. Nothing's getting lost. And sometimes that means shifting the local value so that like an element is darker or lighter than the values around it. Sometimes it just means adding light or adding shadow. I kind of scribbled in this skirt and realized I didn't like how it looked, so made some changes. These guys in the background, I don't even know why I added them. I think I just felt like I needed something there. And that was also something I sketched in very quickly and didn't give a whole lot of thought to. So just wanted to incorporate them a bit more in the scene. Make them look like they were actually, make them look like they actually had a function back there. Looking at reference again. Perspective is always a challenge for me. I think I probably could have done better on the perspective in this scene. But it is what it is. I'm not being terribly detailed with the background because it is in the background. It's not the focal point. And also, this is a magazine cover, and a lot of this is going to be covered by text. So I was doing just enough to serve the needs of the illustration. The detail you add to your environment is really important, like the little details. With a man-made structure like this school, like this really ancient-looking school, you see I've added cracks to the stone, to the brick. Those little details are what make what make an environment feel believable. This is something that an art instructor really hammered into me with environments. You want to think about how they're constructed. So, you're thinking about with these bricks, how they're cemented together, or, if it's like steel, like a metal structure, how plates and bolts and screws and all those things, how they're just you're thinking at every level how these environments are constructed and what little details you can add to the construction to give that environment character. So it's not enough to just create like a solid wall and call it finished. You want to think about the architecture, you want to think about the construction, and you can always look up reference to help you with that. With these dragons, I had no reference at all, and I, of course, because they're not real, and they're such a small detail. I think I just felt like the background needed something else. Like, this is clearly a fantastical piece. It's for a sci-fi fantasy literary magazine, but I wanted just like one more fantastical element, and the only space for that was in the sky. Okay, we're doing it now. We've got to the color part. I believe this is a layer over the grayscale layer, and I've set the blending mode to probably color. I'll just, it might not be color actually, I might have used hard light or something else. But sometimes I'll just go down the blending modes and see what feels right. See what's getting me the richest color, or, whatever's getting me closest to what I'm looking for. And I'm just going detail by detail and adding just this, this is what I consider flatting. So you're just using solid color and locking that color in. And when I was discussing flatting with the grayscale, it's the same thing. You're just taking one color and just blocking in an area. And then later you come back and blend and, add light and shadow and other colors, and you finesse. I'm probably, usually I will do everything on different layers, and I'll just have a ton of layers in the scene that later I will collapse. At this stage, because I was kind of rushing on this piece, I might have used fewer layers than I probably would have. You can kind of see me in the bottom right corner, like how I'm moving from layer to layer. And always moving around the scene, never lingering too long on one area, and working as zoomed out as I can. I'm not zooming in too much. I'm trying to keep the whole painting, the whole canvas in view so that I can look at the painting as a whole. And as I go along, I'm just making color adjustments, playing with the balance. dragons in the background, I don't want them to be too colorful. I don't want them to be too bright because they are in the background. So, I want to make sure that they don't become the focal point. So just, the application of just a little color, but nothing too vibrant. And I'll be coming back to them later in greater detail. Oh, no, wait. No, I think this is the part where I do go in and just get the dragons right. I want to move around the piece. I don't want to hyper focus on any one area because at every stage I want the whole painting to be as complete as possible so that I know how every zone is working. I want to see how this painting is coming together all at once. It's easy to hyperfixate and just, want to focus on just one section of the painting. Okay, so I've got my colors blocked in pretty well, and this is the stage where I'm coming in, I'm zooming in and I'm adding detail. I'm about 90-95% of the way there. And so this is the stage where it is okay to hyperfixate a bit, all the way at the end. And the goal here is to get everything to the same level of completeness. I'm keeping the painting fairly simple, I think, but I'm adding in, I'm blending the colors a bit. I'm adding a bit of coolness, a bit of warmth together to create, this overall impression. I'm always pounding into my students, you can't use just one color because nothing for these smaller details I do break out textured blending colors together. I use a lot more textured brushes at the end of the paintings than I do at the beginning. Mix up an environment and a prop. So here I'm adding a bit of cool highlights to the middle character's hair. Lighting on their clothing and the light hitting their skin directly is a bit warmer. The suggestion there is that the light is coming from the sun. And I like to color pick around my painting and just add little notes of color, especially to something highly reflective like this mouth. But just add little notes of color, throughout the piece, just kind of tying everything together. And their uniforms are feeling a little empty, so I added, again, you want to think about how elements are constructed. And this isn't Star Wars. There are buttons, there are, well, not zippers, but this sort of detail, this stuff, I leave till the end because it's way easier to paint it than to draw it in. It would be way harder to do this at the line drawing stage than it is to just like paint it with a brush. Like you can see how, this is sped up of course, but you can see how I can kind of fly through this because it doesn't need to be that detailed, It's not a focal point. It's not it's not a key element. And I definitely, I use my nieces as models for their positioning, for their poses, but the lighting conditions for the photos I took did not reflect the lighting conditions of this piece. So I definitely went on Google and just looked up like people standing by a window to get the lighting across these characters' faces. These dragons, background elements, so they are not detailed at all. They're really just scribbles, but I wanted to come back and add, highlights like reflected light from the sun. And I added some subsurface scattering as well at some point. And here, like, I'm just adding little like moles and just little blemishes because skin has that. Like, skin is very textured and, it's full of imperfections and it just adds so much to the painting. Now, I'm not satisfied with this hand. I don't think I spent enough time, conceiving of the look of this hand, but it's fine. It works for the painting, I guess. I do the same thing with hair and fur. I like to come in and draw individual strands. I came in and drew the whiskers on this fox. That is also a detail I leave till the very last. Just adding in some of the sunlight reflecting on the stone, just in a few places, because this is not a highly reflective object. And those background characters, I did not do a whole lot with them because, again, background detail, and also part of them is going to be covered with text. So they're just, they're just there. Okay, so this is where I'm adding some subsurface scattering and basically light coming through the dragon's wings, the leather of their wings. And now we're adding final touches, just pumping up the light in some areas. I'm using an airbrush for this part, just like adding a little bit of glowy effect, just a little, in strategic places. And that's about it.